Sup nerds, my name is Steve from Flipping the Nerd, and this is my top 10 scariest horror scenes. I'm a huge fan of horror, and what I look for in horror, more than anything, is to get scared. Now, of course, I'm an old man, I don't really get scared by horror films anymore, which is very unfortunate, but I can imagine myself as a kid getting scared by these movies, and this list is based off how I would have felt watching it as a kid, or how I felt watching it as a kid, depending on how old it is. And if a movie can make me feel anything now, like even the slightest tinge of fright, I'm all over it, and I become obsessed with it because it doesn't happen often, and when it does, it's a special moment for me. So before I get to my top 10, a few honorable mentions. The first one is actually a personal one because my entire fear was based off a lie. And I got so scared of this scene that I couldn't sleep in my own bed for like a month. So it's from the Tom Savini's Night of the Living Dead. Now, the whole story is about zombies that attack a farmhouse and they kind of defending themselves against it. The reason that alone scared me, first of all, I saw it, I was really young. And second of all, it was a lot like my grandparents' house, which also had a cemetery nearby. So it added a true like reality to the whole thing. And the scene that scared me is there's an old lady that appears in front of the house, and it's a shot that's really out of place where they show this old lady kind of far away from the house looking at the camera and then turning towards the house to attack it. And I was convinced as a kid that that was Barbara's mom, which you see at the beginning of the film on a picture on her tombstone. I have the two pictures up, you'll see what I mean. So first her on a tombstone, and then the lady that I'm talking about. Now, I learned later that it was actually just the person who owned the house, and it was kind of a cameo. But as a kid, I was convinced it was the mom coming back to attack them, and that scared the hell out of me as a kid, because I thought that people can come out of the ground and attack you, which made my real life situation, my grandparents, that much scarier. So, not really a scary scene, and that's why it's an honorable mention, but I had to mention it because it scared the living daylights out of me as a kid. The second one is the first zombie that you see in Return of the Living Dead Part 3. There's just something about this zombie that's just shook me to the core. He looks super freaky. And even though Return of the Living Dead is more of like a jokey comedy type of horror film, that zombie really scared me as a kid. And I just think he has a really creepy look, and that's why I want to at least give him a shout out. Not quite on my list, but needed a shout out. Then we have the kitchen ghost from The Sixth Sense. Sixth Sense isn't an overly scary film, but ghosts are something that you'll see. Most of these are ghosts because that's what scares me more than anything. Zombies, other than that first one, the first two do a little bit because it's dead people, but monsters and serial killers and home invasions, that doesn't scare me at all, so you won't get any of that. So the kitchen lady in The Sixth Sense, it's the first first ghost that you see in The Sixth Sense. It just scared me because it's a kid, and the kid, like, he really has to pee, and I remember being a kid, being afraid of my own shadow, and I had to go to the bathroom, and it's like, what do I do? Do I escape the safety of my room and risk going out there to the bathroom where something can attack me? Or, what do I do? And that scene made it so real for me. So I give it a shout out because it reminded me of my childhood. You're just safer in your bed. Everyone knows that. Under the covers, immunity. Like, no one can touch you. But outside of the covers, somewhat safe. Out of your room, forget it. It's like a dog's breakfast. So that's why it scared me. Then we have the stairs scene from The Grudge. The Grudge, I thought, was a really scary film at the time. I rewatched it actually last week for this list, and not so much anymore. I blame my friends for that. One time I went to sleep over at their house, and they put the Grudge sound all night, like that thing she does, which was weird but funny. And anyway, so shout out to my two buddies. They know who they are. So the stairs scene in The Grudge, that's where the ghost kind of slowly comes down the stairs in very unnatural movements, which I always found freaky, the unnatural movements. You'll see a few of this on this list. And then she like goes into like a door and her head kind of falls down. It gives me the chills, so I needed to give it a mention. And finally, the crawl space old lady from The Visit. I don't know what it is. I think maybe it's the claustrophobia of being under the stairs, or it just freaked me out. Again, it's that unnatural movement, that quick movement that just freaked me out. So I wanted to give it an honorable mention, but I don't think it deserved a spot on my list. But it is what it is. Let's get to the top 10. Number 10. The Others. The Others, another ghost film, I think is fantastic. And the scene in The Others that spooked me was the old lady, of course, that Nicole Kidman sees, and then she turns to her and she's all freaky. She's got a veil, and she's like, "Where's my daughter?" And I think she says something along the lines of, "What are you talking about? I am your daughter." And it just, it's so freaky, so crazy. A really great film if you haven't seen it. One of my favorite ghost films. But that scene, yeah, shook me to my core at the time. And that's why it made it on my top 10. Number 9. The Shining. Specifically, the Grady twins. Those damn little two twin girls are freaky. Kids and old people, man. Kids and old people freak me the hell out. And this is maybe why kids freak me out to this day in movies like this. The Grady twins, they're just, you need a lot of imagination because they're not scary. They're just two little girls. But the way that Kubrick set up the shot and the atmospheric music and Danny's reaction to the kids, and the way they're talking, it scared the hell out of me. I love that scene. I thought it was scarier than the shower scene in the movie. I don't know what it is. There's just something that the way this was filmed and presented, that scared the hell out of me as a kid. So, need to be on my list. Number 8. The Exorcist. There's a lot I could have picked from The Exorcist. There are a lot of freaky moments, but the one that really makes me the most uncomfortable is one that I only saw later in life because it wasn't in the original film. It was only in the version you haven't seen version of the DVD, I think. And that's the spider walk. It's that unnatural movement in a stupid damn little girl. These stupid kids are so freaky, and having her kind of backwards and running down the stairs and then the blood coming out of her mouth was just like, ugh, why? So uncomfortable. I don't know why they cut it. It's an amazing scene. So, but there's a lot of this movie that could have been on this list. I just couldn't pinpoint one particular scene that affected me more than this one. So that's why I think that the spider walk and The Exorcist deserve a spot on the list. Number 7. Pet Sematary. The old one, not the remake. Everyone knows where I'm going with this. Zelda. Holy shit. Zelda is so scary in the original. I didn't think they did her as much justice in the remake. Her fall was pretty creepy in the way she looked after that, but anything other than that, Zelda from the original was just freaky. To have this kind of really crazy looking girl, and it just, I don't know what it is about it that just captured my imagination when I was a kid, but it freaked me the hell out. Great performance, great makeup. Of course, it's infamously a guy that played Zelda, and it's all about the look of Zelda, and it just freaked me the hell out. So definitely had to be on the list. Number 6. The Changeling. The Changeling is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It's probably my favorite ghost story, if not my second favorite ghost film of all time. And the one that really captured my imagination, again, goes back to my childhood. And that's when there's this little girl who sees a ghost in her room of Joseph, the ghost in the story, in the floor. And he's like kind of underwater and looking at her. And it just, oh my God, it freaked me the hell out. This movie is just incredible. The way it's paced, the way that they present ghosts as being the way that they are is just, it's a great film that I highly recommend. And the floor ghost scene is the one that gave me the most chills, but there are a lot of chills in this movie. When you first hear Joseph talk for the first time, that's a freaky one as well. A few of the wheelchair scenes, so there's a lot to be scared of in this movie, but it's the floor ghost that got me the most. Number 5, The Eye, the Japanese version, not the Jessica Alba remake. The Eye has this really great scene in an elevator where there's a ghost standing in the elevator facing the back of the wall, and the character doesn't know if she should go in the elevator or not, and then she doesn't, and then these other people go into the elevator but they don't see the ghost, so she goes on another elevator where he's not, and then she goes in and the ghost is behind her, and it's just the amount of tension that this scene brings is incredible. You don't know what this ghost is going to do. The ghost slowly acknowledges her presence, and then she slowly realizes that the ghost is behind her, and it feels so scary, and it's done perfectly. The atmosphere, the tension, the music, everything in this scene is perfect. Unfortunately, they didn't do it justice in the remake of The Eye, and that's why I'm giving the nod to the Japanese version, even though that scene was in the American version, but the Japanese version is where I give it my scare factor and a spot on this list. Number 4, The House on Haunted Hill, the original, the Vincent Price one. There's an old lady in this that gives this freaky look, and then she kind of floats towards them or out of the room with this like crazy, like you'll see the pictures when I post them. I don't know what it is, but that freaked me the hell out. I saw it early on. I'm a big fan of Vincent Price, and it's just so like unexpected and freaky, and I think because it's black and white, it adds a little bit of more of a spook factor than some of the other films. It just, yeah, that scene, to this day I think about it. I would love a t-shirt of that, or even a figure. Why is there no figure of that lady? Or if there is, please let me know. I would love to buy one. So the old lady ghost in the House of Haunted Hill, the original, again, a lot of these are the original, not the remakes. Absolutely had a spot on my list, and I urge you to go see this film. I bet you a lot of people haven't because it's so old, but this is one you need to watch for all horror fans. So House on Haunted Hill absolutely needs to be on the list. Number 3, Insidious, the very first one. So there had been a huge lull of time where there weren't any good ghost films, like at all. They were absolutely terrible for a long time. And then Insidious came out, and there are some great moments in this movie. But the one that really got me, and I was an adult when I saw this, so just the fact that it got me as an adult was pretty freaky, is when you see the ghost in the nursery that's all in red. There's just something about the ghost being behind kind of a veil, so you don't see him clearly, and the baby's there, and the woman sees him, and do you grab the baby because the ghost is there, or do you leave the baby? It just freaked me out. The fact that you don't see the ghost for very long adds a lot to the scene, because you do see this ghost later in the film, and he's not as freaky once you see him more. But in his first appearance, when he is behind that veil and he's red, that's what freaked me out. Because to me, in real life, ghosts, they don't appear clearly. Like, you don't see them. You'll see in most of these movies, the ghosts are like full people. They're not apparitions. And this kind of gave it an apparition vibe to it. And that's what I love to see in these ghost films, which I don't, unfortunately, very often. But it freaked me the hell out. The red room scene, the red nursery. Absolutely terrific filming. And I love the Insidious series. So absolutely need a spot on the list. Number 2. The Blair Witch Project. Shout out to my buddy Joe Manganero, because I know he's a giant fan of this movie, and I know he's going to get me on this one. The Blair Witch Project is one of those films that either you're into it or you're not. And I think what it comes down to is whether you can picture yourself in that situation or you don't. And that's the thing with found footage. I could definitely picture myself in a situation when I go camping, especially. And that's why that movie was really freaky to me. And there are two scenes that I toyed around with as to which one kind of got me most. There's the ending, which is freaky as hell, but it's not that one that really captured my imagination. It's actually right before that, when they're in a tent for the last time and they hear these bloody damn little kids like laughing near them, and you could feel that they know that something's out there in the woods and they don't know what it is, and then the damn tent starts shaking. Oh my god, if I were in that situation, I would just I would bolt the hell out of there and keep running until I died. That's basically what would happen to me. Freaky as hell, and every single time I go camping, I think of that damn scene. Every time I hear even so much as a twig breaking in the woods, which happens a lot when you go camping, there's all sorts of stuff in the woods, it just freaks me the hell out. And again, with the damn kids, with the laughing, freaks me the hell out and just chills my bones to this day, because I can really put myself in that situation. So yeah, absolutely, this is one of the scariest scenes of all time, but not quite the scariest. Number 1. The Conjuring 2. So I saw this as an adult. It didn't come out that long ago. But there's one scene that if I were to go back to film school and present what I think is the best kind of tension in a horror film, it would be this. And that is The Nun. The Nun painting scene in particular. There's just something about this way that the scene is composed that freaked me the hell out. It starts with the little girl who sees the nun at the end of the hall, just standing there. Nothing, she's not saying anything, she's not scaring her, she's just standing there, and then slowly walks away. First of all, when a ghost acknowledges your presence, that'll bring my freak factor 10 times, for sure. If they see you, they know you're there, and that freaks me out. And then the whole scene with the damn painting. The painting is so freaky. I absolutely love it. And you don't know what she's going to do, but you know she's kind of in the room. And it was so beautifully shot. It was beautifully acted. The pacing, I keep saying the pacing, but the atmosphere, the tension, everything is perfect. And I love this scene for it. Again, because I saw it as such an adult and it did something for me, that just makes me love The Nun even more. I'm obsessed with The Nun. I try to buy everything that Nun related, and I love this scene to death, and I think it's actually the scariest scene that's ever been put on film. And that's just my own opinion. I'm sure you have a ton of your own opinions. Again, what scares you is relative. It depends what it is. Again, monsters don't scare me. Aliens don't scare me. It's just, for me, it was ghosts mostly, and a little bit of zombies sprinkled into there. And Zelda, because she's freaky. So I'd love to know, what are your scariest scenes? Which scenes scared you the most? I would love to discuss this, because I think it's such an interesting subject, and I couldn't wait to do this list. And I look forward to doing another horror list, which I will in a few weeks. But next week, I'm going to do my top 10 favorite movies based off video games. So let me know what you thought on my list. I'd love to hear yours. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all on the flip side.